started. It's like about 3 o'clock, so call the meeting to order. Will you roll call?
Yes, Allison Gould, here. Tom Dester.
Here.
Scott Holwig.
Here.
Roger Lang.
Here.
Ken Houston.
Here.
Wes Lowry is not here. Kevin Bowden.
Here.
Jason Elkins.
Here.
Hope Bartlett. Here. Heather McIntyre is here. Councilmember Martin is not here yet. We do have a quorum.
All right, great. We'll get started. Approval of previous month's meeting. Any questions or comments on the previous month's meeting? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I would so move.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
I didn't vote, Roger, because I wasn't here, so I can't say that I accurately reflected the
When
meeting.
you don't say anything, everything stops around
Right.
here. Come on, sis.
No, you got 3 people, you guys can get it done. You had a motion?
All right,
That's
all
perfect.
Kevin, I guess you're doing the water status report.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Good.
Flow on the St. Rain this morning was 14 CFS, and with a historic average this time of year 40 CFS. The call on the St. Rain Creek is the Zweck and Turner, which is an 1864 water rate.
Wow, man.
The call on the main stem of the South Platte River was North Sterling, and with a priority date of January 5th of 1922. Ralph Bryce Button Rock is full with elevation of 6,400.1, and Union Reservoir is currently at 26.7 feet, or 11,793 acre feet, which is down approximately 8,000 acre feet. St. Rain Creek Basin storage is at 76%. Not too bad in terms of basin storage.
Yeah. Any comments, Kevin? Is there anybody that has a water right earlier in 64? 1864, is there?
Several.
Yeah,
There are a few of them, not many.
Not a lot, but there's.
Wow.
But they only have 2 more weeks to run direct flow water anyhow, so.
There you go.
Storage season.
Yeah. Does it usually go that deep?
Not,
It's a pretty small flow.
yeah, 14 CFS is like,
In the water.
it's there. You don't see it hit this Black and Turn often. Usually it stops around the Longmont spot. Not much there.
Hi, Marcia.
It's rare to be that deep
Hi, Eric.
at this time of the year. Usually people kind of ditches start dropping off and start coming back in by October. It's been dry enough. Ditches start going. On grass. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I assume there's no public matter to be heard. Any revisions to the agenda or submission of documents?
I have none.
All right. Development activity, as I look through that, there is none required. So, any comments, Ken, about that, or?
No, we have development to this month.
Okay. All right. Now the general business, legislative guiding water principles. Staff will ask water board for input regarding existing principles. And Ken, I assume you're going to lead us on this.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. It's every year, a little nervous legislative sessions, to be honest, pretty quick. So every October, we bring the guiding water principles for legislative principles to water board. Essentially, we send, once water boards approve these, we send these up as a recommendation to council. It basically is our kind of our guide to review legislative bills that might impact water and utilizing these legislative principles. So I think last year we added the very last principle, improving municipal water supply plan in United States, securing multiple independent sources of raw water. So, encouraging state support for planning and municipal waters. But other than that, they're pretty similar to what we've approved in the past. So staff doesn't have any requested revisions or additional. The water board give us any input if you have any. If not, we'll forward these on up. And they go up to council, and then council approves them, usually about December.
Roger, I had a thought on the first bullet point. And it's an easy one, support water policies that protect all our water resources. And I don't think I saw in here anything that was related to fire policy. And it's not interrelated, and so much of our grant dollars are going to work with forest policy to make sure that water quality is not impaired by forest degradation and fires and all that. So I thought instead of saying support water policies, say support policies that protect our water resources. Because, fire policy isn't water, but it is absolutely important. And there's a lot of federal dollars and state dollars being directed to work on fire sheds to keep the water coming through. So just an observation. I think there's going to be a lot of fire activity, a lot of fire policy activity in the legislature this year, including, I believe, a burn policy. It's got some momentum, which has an effect on water as well. So that's my 2 cents. It maybe isn't critical, but it seems
The last item that Kim pointed out, does that touch anything that you're interested in? It's got, well, it may not hit the point you're driving at, but
now maybe it does. I don't know.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the change, but I just wondering.
I don't have an opinion, Roger, frankly. I mean, that jumped out at me because, of course, we would support any policy that protects Colorado water resources. It doesn't necessarily have to be modified by water policies. There's policies outside of that are helpful. Now, that was my take on that, but you're correct. It probably could be subsumed in that last bullet point as well.
I think even if it is, it doesn't necessarily matter that the first bullet point also could be revised, even if the last bullet point does include.
So, Scott, your suggestion is that we read that, change the reading on that?
Yeah.
First bullet point?
Correct, to remove the first reference to the word water in that bullet point. And I don't feel supremely strongly about it. It just jumped out at me because most of my water life right now is spent with fire policy and trying to direct grant dollars to fire funding, which is all about water. So,
Well, it's a little broader direction, so any other comments? Allison, you got it?
I would support that change. In addition, I think the fourth bullet point, I would suggest that maybe we number these? Fifth bullet point. I would suggest we consider adding environmental to the list of agricultural, recreational, and species.
Why don't we take the first one to start with, and then we'll just hop down to here, but Scott, you want to make a motion to?
Sure, I can make that a motion. I would move that in the first bullet point of the proposed 2023 City of Longmont water principles, we remove the first reference to water and otherwise leave it exactly the same.
Is there a second to that?
I would second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, well, let's go down to yours, Allison. Why don't you just repeat what you.
I would move to add the word environment to the fifth bullet point following the word recreation.
Any comments on Allison's suggestion?
I would second it, but I was trying to figure out if it should be environmental instead of environment,
Yeah,
so
probably environmental,
I was playing with that in my mind. Apologies, Allison.
maybe the environment.
I'm in support, of course. However, I do note that maybe it's more specific in that seventh bullet point where it talks about protection of aquatic and riparian areas. And I don't know exactly, I mean, I suppose environmental could be broader and encapsulate more things than just that. I suppose my mind perhaps wanders to that component of the environment. When I hear the word environment, think about water resources perhaps.
Specifically, the reason I suggested with that particular bullet point is because it involves coordination, which I think is
Sure.
the aspect that it has, that the other lacks.
Yeah, interesting. Good, okay.
Is there a second to?
Yeah, I seconded that motion, Roger, sorry.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
The
Very good.
environmental, is that what we're going with?
I think the environment.
I'm gonna let you write it. I'm not gonna wordsmith this one again.
So we support appropriate coordination of municipal water use with agriculture, recreation, environmental, and open space uses.
I think environmental.
Yeah, I think that's the uses and stuff out there. Okay.
Any other suggestions for adjustments or revisions?
I don't think there was a suggestion, but I did have a question about the, oh man, here we go, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet point on the second page. The final sentence specifically refers to the transfer of water from northern Colorado to meet the water needs of the Denver metro area is a significant concern for Longmont. I just wanted to find out if there was something particular in mind with respect to that sentence.
Yes, there is not a specific project in mind. It's generally the concept of there's a lot of water going from northern Colorado. I'll call it northern Colorado to the metro area. We first got hit with the Thornton project. Then United Water actually filed on the St. Vrain Creek. They have a filing on the St. Vrain Creek, pulled for a pipeline going on St. Vrain Creek where Highway 66 crosses and taking it over to the Platte and then exchanging it up. And a lot of talk over the last 5 to 10 years about water in the lower reaches of the South Platte, moving water up to the metro area, even as much as they're talking about a pipeline down south. A couple of the entities have bought a couple of ditches up around the Wiggins or downstream of Greeley between Greeley and Fort Worth. And then on top of that, we have a real concern about the CBT water, which is, it's not fully consumable. We have to let it go. Anybody uses it, so that's going down, and that has to stay in the Northern District. So Northern Water is working on a lot of accounting procedures to make sure that doesn't work out. So it's just a general concern of water.
Yes.
Yeah, I just,
Welcome.
Allison, sorry, I was late.
That's all right.
It might help to clarify this, is that what these principles are gonna drive is what the assistant city manager in charge of legislative oversight brings forward to the council to choose to endorse or write to the legislature or send people to testify on. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a position one way or the other. It just says this is of interest to Longmont.
My comment, I was wondering about the same thing. Does it carry much weight? I mean, maybe you can help me. How did that Thornton thing ever actually take place? Which I am surprised they were able to reach that far north and without a lot of battle, but.
Well, they still haven't got the water yet.
I know, I understand that, but how did it, is it easy for a Denver community to hop all over the place and grab water, or not? Maybe?
Not real easy, no. In fact, Thornton's been working for quite a while on theirs. One of the biggest hurdles is whether or not it involves CBT water and return flows and all that. It does happen and can happen. I think what the original intent behind this language was a concern that you might get a bill someday in the state legislature that makes it easier. That, who knows what it could be. But, examples are different bills that come, each year it seems like we nudge. Every now and then we have a bill that changes water law slightly. Used to be not legal to for ring girls. Now it is. It used to be not legal to store water out of priority in a pit, but now if you call it a fire protection pit, quarry, pond, it's now legal to take it out of priority. So there's always the concern that every one of these bills are really good ideas, on their face, but they chip away a little bit at water law. And you just never know what the next bill will be.
Yeah.
If it impacts or makes it easier to move water, you realize a little bit like the West Slope thinks to the East Slope. We take our water, well, if they're not getting water from West Slope, then they're gonna come up and get it in Northern Colorado. So there is a real concern.
Yeah, see what?
Yeah, that's what that's about, is to be vigilant about bills and what impact they might have on the water rights and the ability to pull water out of Northern Colorado. It is a real concern, drying up. Part of the concern is that you dry up the agricultural fields up here and you take that water down to Denver, then when you develop up here, that water's not there. So you just transfer the water shortage from metro area up to here. That's the idea.
Does that help your thought process, Allison? Were you looking to change something or just for an explanation?
An explanation was what I was thinking about, but Marcia's comment helped to kind of fully flesh that out. Would if say there's a bill or project or something that implicated that particular sentence, would that individual come back before the water board before they took a position in the legislature?
What would happen? Well, what happens is that as far as this board is concerned, and the staff as well, as Sandy uses a tool that shows her all of the bills that are coming up in sequence, and she reads them against guidelines like these and decides whether or not to pester us for comments about it or not. So if our guidelines appear to rule out, we're not interested in fire stuff, for example, then she wouldn't send it to the water board, she wouldn't send it to the water staff. So it's a question of what you think you're gonna want to comment on. It's been, I don't think I've ever, actually the invasive species one got quite a bit of attention, not just from us, but from, like I think Fort Collins that has, a problem with mussels, and Horsetooth or anticipates a problem with mussels. And the legislature does pay attention to that when when organizations like us or CML or somebody weighs in on a particular bill, then it tends to raise the profile and get people thinking about it more.
Functionally, how it happens is Sandy kind of looks at every bill, and then if she finds one, she, conflicts with something here, she will send out to the staff liaisons that are looking at legislation. During the legislative session, we do come back to water board with bills that we really want to look at or really want to take position on, with the exception that when we have time, in January you have time. There's 300 bills introduced, and it takes 2 or 3 months to get through them, so you have time. Later in the session, you might have a week. And it's right at the end of the session. Everybody kind of jams stuff in, and it's like, if the city wants to take any position, sometimes it's hard to get it even to council. Sometimes we'll have to, here's our position, and then we look at this, and this is kind of water board's direction to us to how to respond to a particular, and then we send that information to council, and they'll take it, or not. I mean, they choose not to, but so not every bill makes it back to water board.
Okay.
But and I'll be real honest, the last couple of years there've been, there's always some water bills, but there hasn't been any really big. I mean, this started in 2002 during the drought, and there must have been 50 bills that year, and some of them wilder than others. So that's when we really started looking pretty hard at water legislation.
Yeah. With the Colorado River concerns and what's being done at the federal level, it could happen again, especially if Colorado's extended drought stays extended. This has been a sweet summer for us, but not for everybody in the state.
And the legislature, it wouldn't surprise me someday they'll take a position on the Colorado River. We've all kind of danced around that. How are we really going to administer this? I would stand up and say prior appropriation, but
Don't feel like the way it is.
who knows? Who knows how that will go?
Any other?
I just have a quick historical question. So, you mentioned that the guiding principles kind of started maybe 2002 or something like that. At that time, was the guiding principles like 4 bullets long, 6 bullets long, and then it just kind of continually, as things come up and you start to say, well, I think we need to actually address that in the principles, or did it feel like what's here represents kind of like the initial stance, and maybe some things got tweaked along the way, but for the most part, we had this kind of comprehensive collection.
We've tweaked it, but I would say probably 90% of what's here.
Oh, wow.
We've had that for quite a while.
It seems like something that could drift over time, right? Like a new bill comes up, and then you're like, well, we don't have anything in the principles about that, so we better write one, right? And then all of a sudden it's like 20 long when it started out as like 6 or something,
Yeah. Well, we had. They were based off our guiding water principles that were raw water master plan. Water board actually was instrumental in developing those guiding water principles in 2002 and 2003. So I credit water board a lot for that effort. And so, yeah, I would say pretty similar. They've served us well.
Yeah.
Really have.
Other comments? I had one, third from the top on the second page, the Longmont water policy for transferring historical water from land being annexed to the city. I guess my question is, and I just don't know, it talks about should be encouraged to be completed through leases. How often do we get into leases with water? My assumption would be it is bought or not bought.
That is correct. Actually, we don't have any. We haven't done these. we have a really almost an unwritten policy that in Longmont, we won't go dry up farmland and take the water off, even if they want us to. I actually probably, more than once, I've had somebody call up and say, you know, I'm retiring from farming, I want to sell my water. And we said, well, we don't want to dry up.
We might buy your land, but we.
Yeah, we might buy all for open, you know, the land and water for open space, but that's appropriate.
But it comes as a package,
It
and that's
comes
the
back
deal.
each, yeah. But we try not to dry up any, and really haven't. I mean, extremely small weird circumstances, a little bit here and there, but for the most part, we don't go out and get any water. So either by lease or ATMs or anything, we do, that's not how we do water here.
Anything else, Ken, on this subject, or?
I haven't, thank you for your input, that's very helpful.
All right, let's move on to item 9A, and hope you
I don't have much of an update from last month, just going over our contracts for next year with Resource Central and Efficiency Works. But everything's going well, and just if you guys have any questions.
I would like to just say I'm deeply grateful for what Hope has done so far this year, and she's been great about getting our program up to the next level.
Lisa,
Going well.
I would like to say this from direct experience now, that Resource Central runs a terrific program. They actually, you know, I subscribed to three other programs, and they follow up. You know, I asked you if you need any help. It's just terrific. They're doing a great job. So we should all know that.
Good to hear, because, you know, from our end, they're so helpful in us getting our program going forward. I like to hear that from the customer side.
Yeah, they're
It
doing
works
a
too.
good job.
That's good. That's good.
And the neighbors like it.
Yeah.
That's it, Hope?
Yep.
Well, nice work.
Thank you. Thanks.
Everybody appreciate
Needs
it. Good.
presentation yet?
Yes.
Nobody has a complaint against Hope, or?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
Very good work then, Hope.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken, you wanna talk about Windy Gap?
Sure. There's a little bit of data here, so I wanted to do it in the form of a PowerPoint for you. The work on the reservoir is continuing. This is a shot of the center line of the dam with the concrete plinth, which is the connection between the ground and the dam itself. Is, you can see they're starting to get to the steep part, and I'm glad I'm not pouring concrete up there. But the foundation itself is about 88% complete and done, in terms of having it completely prepped and ready for the plinth. The plinth itself is 68% done. There's a couple sections on the upper ends that are done. They can't pour it all continuous, so they'll pour a section and they'll pour a section. But there's about 2,000 feet of it done, and the bulk of it is down here at the bottom of the dam. And that's critically important, because this is where, of course, when you start building the dam, you start at the very bottom, and you know, it's going to be a short section. As you go up, it gets bigger and bigger. So this is the critical part. If you look here, it's a little hard to see, but you can see some of the embankment, especially on the downstream side. And we saw a little bit of that when we were out there on our tour. You could see a little bit of it. But some of the embankment on each side is starting up, because the good news is today they're going to start hydraulic asphalt placement on the dam.
Whoa.
Which is, it's going to be right where that excavator is. And they'll be, you know, they'll place hydraulic asphalt, and then there's, you know, kind of like a sand mix on each side that holds the hydraulic asphalt together. And then you start building, so you can see where they left it out. The hydraulic asphalt is going to go in a lot faster than the dam, so they're trying to get a little ahead of it. And so, it'll come up pretty quick. And then they'll have biggest challenge is keeping the embankment going up on each side of that is, because you generally want to work a dam, all your zones, this up about the same level. Yeah, so they'll work down here and then, this will start coming up and they'll try to keep the rock fill and everything on each side of it going up at about the same. So, yeah, in fact, to be honest, I probably wouldn't be here today if we didn't have water board. I didn't kind of figured out some way to go up and take a peek of that, the start of it, but that's okay. The outlet tunnel, I don't have a good picture of it. It's about 2,000 feet long on the outlet tunnel. It's 24% complete through the end of August. 575 feet of it is done. So they should be into about the valve chamber, which is about the center line of the dam, in a few weeks. So that's going well. Then they'll start on the uphill side and start digging until they get back into the valve chamber in the center. So the outlet tunnel's going. One of the things I wanted to, probably interesting, at least to me, this is the dam itself. This is an earlier picture, but it's right here. But if you look right up here, this is the penstock that comes from Flatiron or Pinewood Reservoir down to Flatiron Reservoir in the power plant. Right here is what's called, this is Pole Hill. So this is called the Pole Hill Tunnel. There's a tunnel that goes through the mountain there and comes out at the bottom of Pinewood Reservoir. And actually at the bottom, underwater. This is where the project will tie into water supply, and there'll be a pipe down here to the reservoir. So it'll be filled by a pipe down to here, and then the outlet tunnel is down here, which will connect to the power plant at Flatirons. So that outlet, it's called the Pole Hill tunnel. That is underway and started. So you can see the reservoir on the back side down here in the valley. This is the gate chamber where you'll control the flow of water. It'll either come out. Here's the start of the Pole Hill tunnel. So it's immediately below that, where the water will either go on down the penstock to the power plant or come this way into this gate chamber, and then there's a pipeline that they've already started putting the pipe in down to the reservoir. But that's the most critical part because you had to shut the whole CBT system down to do this work. And so they're real critical to get it done. That's the actual why that will be put into it, as you can kind of get it scale when you look at the truck. That's just one fitting that big. It was so big that the truck couldn't get it up there. They had to use a dozer and an excavator to push the truck out. That's one big piece of steel.
Imagine the brake speed.
But the good news is it's in.
It fits.
That was that quick.
That's good.
But, they just cut that pipe that we saw and put it in, and they'll pour concrete all the way around it to completely encase it, and then you can see it doesn't. That's why I had to show it on the truck, because here it doesn't look as big. Although if you look at the guys that are standing there, it's big. But that was a real critical part of getting this. And then they'll just tie it in from here. You saw that other picture. Whoops. They'll just tie it in that far is all they need to do. And then there's the valve is already in that valve chamber. So you'll then be able to turn the CVT system back on and not have water going on down, which you don't want for a couple of years.
So if you go back one image, two images, yeah. So the water from the penstock, so the reservoir gets filled from the west side.
Yeah, so this is the west side of the reservoir.
Yeah.
Here's the top end of the reservoir. Here's where the bridge over the penstock will go, and there's a road now there all the way over to here. And And then the pipeline will come down here and come down to the reservoir over here.
Interesting.
And
And so will there be, how deep into the reservoir does the pipeline go such that like,
that I do not know,
yeah.
to be real honest.
I guess I thought when we were out there, and I probably overheard a conversation that was already halfway done and I didn't catch like the whole gist of it. I guess I thought that it was, that further downstream on the penstock that they were able to, that essentially they were backfilling the water up through what was gonna be the outlet. But no. Or is there some aspect of something that's?
There's one aspect where they'll tie in the outlet to the Carter Lake pipeline.
Yeah.
The pipeline going to Carter Lake.
Right.
So if Chimney Hall is completely full, you'll be able to gravity feed Carter if it's lower.
Okay.
And
But that's not about filling the reservoir, that was, so
Yeah.
like I said, I listened and.
But I can't remember
Conversation was already halfway done.
I'll have to double check. I can't remember if that pipe goes to the outlet and then in that way. It might be.
Okay.
I'll check on that. But physically, the water will come out clear up at the pulpit.
Interesting. Okay, good.
And then,
You know, back on that one you just had, it shows two outlets, back up a little. This, oh, I thought this was a separate pipe, this is just surrounding this pipe.
yes,
Correct? All right, almost looked like another
this
opening.
is actually a bulkhead going into the
Okay,
tunnel.
all right,
So this is the first pipe out of the
all
tunnel,
right, all right.
which they just basically cut this much of the pipe out, which is what we saw. So from a construction standpoint, good news. One thing I did need to kind of give the board a heads up, we just did find this out at our last, when you got participants meeting, is the estimates on construction costs so far. So now this is the construction budget. There's some money design stuff on top of this. So the original contract amount was $485 million. There's already been a change order issued for $26 million, and that was for construction delay. So because of the federal lawsuit, weren't able to get going and had to pay the contractor, if you want to think of it as interest for cost of construction, went out 26. So so that's a change order that was approved and executed at the start of the construction. So the revised contract to date is $511 million. 106 million earned to date, so 20% of the project already done, billed. So that's that. I think all that part is really good. And this is a summary of where we are currently. So the litigation delays essentially ended up with 22 million. There were some in design. There were additional drilling. There was a few things that happened during the design, which is not uncommon at all. The owner requested change orders, value engineering credit, scope, and existing conditions. Existing conditions is primarily when the foundation, they found the foundation much more variable when they were opening it up, so that did litigate or end up with some. So less the litigation delays is about 3.9 million to date in actual on the field change orders for the foundation, all those kind of things. So that's where the 26 million that we just looked at came from. Then, because that is a fairly big number, Northern Water, we got see where we are budget-wise for the entire project. So given the change orders we had, so they're looking at some foundation changes, and they're estimated about $10 million for all foundation issues and all some plinth quantities and basically everything to get the dam building up. Then the second thing they found in the testing is that the rock fill embankment is a much higher density than it was estimated. So that's going to be the other large change order, about $10 million. And then they did a comprehensive review of everything else on the project, and they feel it could be somewhere around $5 million. So that's another $25 million. So I guess the caution I have is that it was in the original project scoping and original cost estimate, there was a contingency of $50 million. It means right now we're projected to be about there. So as long as there's no new surprises, and of course once you have the foundation essentially done, that's where most of any surprises come in the construction of the dam. Although, I don't know, concrete, cement for concrete's going to get more expensive here real quick. I'm a little concerned about that, but
Didn't they say that the engineering company did a bunch of future buys to control the cost? Barnard Construction did a futures buy on all their fuel. And so their fuel is set for the life of the project. Presumably, wherever they're going to get it doesn't go out of business. Because they probably got a really good deal when they, Yeah,
you know.
but they didn't do that for the cement.
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that they did, because the cement is a smaller part of this project since it's a rock fill. There's a significant amount of cement in the outlet tower, 5,000 yards, you know. So their cement is gonna, that's the only little other thing that really concerns me right now. But I guess the short story is it looks like we're fine, you know, we're still within budget. And most of these costs are all future costs, so they're not, you know, we have plenty of cushion, plenty of space right now in the contingency, but it is projected we'll come close to utilizing that contingency by the time the project's done. And as long as there's no other big major surprises along the way, we should still be okay. But just wanted to be, you know, upfront with all the participants and everybody that that's kind of where the status is right now. So I tried to start with the cost, you know, the scary part at the end, but I think we're still on track. The project's going well. You know, as a water guy, I would prefer it snow, but you know, the weather's been great for the project this fall. It really helped.
If in fact you do get into some financial issues unforeseen now down the road, how do you go about addressing those issues? I mean, all the members are impacted.
Yeah.
You know how big a share they've got in it.
Exactly. Each member they would come back and we would look at that cost. Each member each participant would pay for their proportionate share.
And as far as change, you talk, would that be equivalent to rate increases? Is that what you're talking about?
I would.
That's where that would go?
I wouldn't, I can't, you know, that'll be a council decision in the future. Right now, most of our capacity, we had originally been in the project at a little higher rate, higher level, but we scaled back. Part of our participation was for, we'll call it new development, future growth. Part of it was for the existing system. We kind of scaled back on the existing system. It's entirely possible that we take the bulk of that, any cost increase out of our cash. I would be surprised to see a lot of the money come from rates,
Okay.
but,
That's good news.
Again, it's,
Yeah,
that'll be a future council decision.
all right.
Nice to have raised the cash in lieu.
They did.
Yeah, I see, yeah, it's nice that we did that.
Oh, yeah, I see, yes,
Yeah.
you're right. It gives us even more
Slush
cushion
fund.
right now. And we're doing well on our current cash and money in our cash, in our water acquisition fund. We have other expenses, we use it for land acquisition around Union if some come up, and we're shooting some down. We have, other, we might have other, but we don't have plans right now to use it all up. So there certainly would be some money there. So that's what I would expect.
All right, well, it's basically good news, actually.
I think so, yeah, no, I think it's all going well, I think, it's great to have the project moving forward.
Any other questions for Kim?
I have two questions. First is the corollary to Roger's question, which is what if we don't use all that up? Is it only like the change order is once you commit to the change order, you have, that's it, the money's out the door? Or is it like you actually have to spend it and then you get it back? Or like, how does that work?
If perchance we don't have that many change orders, then it would, right now it's in a fund up at Northern Water. We had to pay all of our money. It's in a fund up at Northern Water, and once a month they pull money out of everybody's fund. One huge fund is the bond. Some of the participants went together and got a pooled bond. But it's still just accounts, and then they pull money out as they need it. At the end of the project, then all the participants will just, if there's anything left over in each account, technically that would come back to each entity. So Longmont has an account up there with our money sitting there. We sent 55 million up, there's 40 million sitting up there. If there's any left over, we would get that back. If it's just a small amount, a few million, then the participant will most likely want to put it in a reserve account for operation and maintenance of the system. That's not uncommon at all. But if it's very much money at all, it would come back. What's not, because they won't draft, then you'll end up, and there's a lot of interest. Well, sort of a lot of interest. At the start, it was like 1%. But, there'll be interest on that big a pot of money, and so that's building up too. So it's basically in an account in our name, and that's our money at the end to do. Either roll into a operation maintenance account or return to the entities. So in the future. But, yeah, their projection is we're going to be pretty close.
And second question is, the litigation delays was 22 million. Did that include the Windy Gap settlement money? The 15
No.
million? No.
The 15 million is separate, and that's coming out of future assessments for the project.
So how did it get to 22 million for litigation? Is that just the contract with the contractor? Or did it just keep them on the hook and push it back?
Yes, that was the contractor, to get a contractor on board and and it's lucky we did, because it set some prices like fuel and valves and a number of things. The $411 million contract went out, the contractor had the contract, and then as the months went on, as interest and the cost of doing the project went up, then the contractor was able to document what their increased costs were. And it sounds like a lot, but it was a 2.5-year delay on a $400 million project, so you're talking 2 or 3% a year.
So it's just inflation.
It's basically inflation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
for the contractor. Luckily, we bought the big valves, and they were manufactured. Otherwise, we'd still be waiting on them. And the fuel. And so that the contractor bought the futures on the fuel. Ones. So that's good. But it's essentially was 2.5 years of inflation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thanks, Kim.
Cool. Thank you.
Jason?
Yeah, I got a quick update on 2 projects. So the South St. Grain Pipeline Pump Station, that's one we've been talking about where we're going to be diverting water out of the South St. Grain Creek through our pipeline into a wet well, pump it into the north line. We actually made our first water delivery last week. So we were doing startup for the pump, but in order to do that, we had to deliver water to the plant. So we delivered about 1 million gallons of water over 3 days. So it's our first delivery in 18 years, something like that. I don't know if I'm doing math right, 2005 or 6, something like that. So, been a while. So yeah, it's actually made deliveries, and so interestingly, when we're pumping into the north line, so the north line is being fed from the north pond, so it has water in it, and about halfway down the north pipeline, where the pump station's at. So we actually end up doing about a 50-50 split once the water reaches Nelson Flanders. So about half of the water in the north pipe when we're pumping is coming from the south pipeline, and the other half is coming from the north. So it's kind of working as designed. Running through some startup issues here and there, but we're hoping, as in any project, to try to get through those and everything. But so far, everything's going really good, and no major hiccups and stuff like that. So. And then the other project I want to give you an update on was the Button Rock outlet repairs. We've had the outlet now shut down for about better part of a month. And so a couple of years ago, we rehabilitated the regulating gate and the hydraulics. We ripped the gate out, sent it down to Denver, had them touch it up and make all the repairs, welds and coatings and stuff. Well, the one thing we didn't get to do during that was replace the bronze seat that the gate shuts down on and seals against. And so we're finally at a point where we were able to actually rip out that old bronze seat and put in a new one and do some field machining and everything and get it within, when you're trying to weld and machine something out in the middle of the field, or I call it, up in the middle of the mountains, and you're literally splitting hairs, trying to get it down to within a couple thousandths of an inch flatness and everything. So it took a little bit longer than necessary. Having said that, we did a pressure test. We filled the pipe up, shut the gate, filled the pipe up, and it's very, very well within tolerance and stuff. So we're looking really good. So right now we're literally waiting for the paint to dry. So, we put a special Balzona coating on it. It's friction reducer and keep everything from cavitating and from erosion. So it takes 5 days, and we'll be able to fill the pipe up and start making releases.
It's pretty amazing to be up there and not see it coming out of the pipe.
It's almost surreal.
It is. I'm like, what's different? Why is it so quiet up here?
So the guys up there doing the work have gotten really good at answering the public's questions. They're like, we get about anywhere from 20 to 30 people a day saying the same thing, like, never seen it without water. What are you doing? At first.
Fortunately, I had to back down. I just waved to him. I didn't say it. It wasn't shocking, but it was shocking, really.
Well, and then I get a few emails and stuff just saying, hey, water's off, what's going on? There's nothing happening, but what they don't see is the guys are in the inlet working, and if you don't hear a grinder or something going off, you don't know that they're in there, and it just looks like nothing's working. So I get a couple of emails, but you explain it to them, and everybody's all thumbs up.
How long has that been down?
It's been down. We started early September, and
6 weeks or something.
yeah. And so getting that seat perfectly level. We we got it in there. We didn't like the measurements. Ended up grinding out some of the wells, reinstalling stuff. I mean, it's a couple snags, but everything's going good. You know, especially considering everything's going over the spillway anyway. And we took some extra measures to make sure we're not killing the fish and everything like that. So it's actually going really well.
So that completes basically the work that you wanted to get done.
Yes. Yep. And then at the same time, the state has asked us to come up there and calibrate our flow meter that we got on there. So we're actually going to add another channel. So we're going to put another mag meter on there. So we've got basically, instead of 2 sensors, we'll double it and have 4. So that I'm not an instrumentation guy, but from my understanding, they'll get a more accurate reading, and the state wants to start using that as their primary source for button rock releases versus the lower gauging station. So
Great.
So what's next? Congratulations are in order, of course, right? I always want to caveat anything with that. And then what's next for Button Rock? Anything else that has to be done up there anytime soon?
you know, there's a lot of things that need to happen up there. But as for the dam, from a dam safety perspective, no. I mean, we're gonna, you know, keep doing our annual inspections and reports and stuff like that. And every 5 years, we have to do the